Hi, Stream Elements. Congratulations. You get the first thing in the chat. Well, does this thing still work? I probably should have checked the Logitech G thing. Ain't nothing but a G thing, baby. Get the latest updates, blah, blah, blah. Shut up, Logitech. I just want to see if my microphone is correct. Blue voice on, blue voice off. To know that this whole setup actually still works. Because the last time, when was the last time I did any streaming whatsoever? And believe me, streaming has absolutely been, had a wrench thrown into it. What is up, everybody? This is Jay, aka Multimedia Jay, and welcome to Jay's Nerd Lounge. 6:51 in the evening at the Geek House, and we have stuff to talk about. We have stuff to catch up on. We have a video, Tuxedo RTX, that has gotten 200 plus views. So in just a couple of days before the algorithms shut it off. And we have a lot of other things going on. I have absolutely zero chance of getting through this discussion saying everything that I want to say tonight. But hey, it's good to see that everything still works, including the sound, right? Gushin. Saying everything that I want to say tonight. Yes, that works. Cool. So the fact that everything works properly still, I hope, means fundamentally that everything survived the upgrade to the Ampere card, the 3060 Ti. And that's another thing I want to respond to too, is Logan589XP giving me a hard time about not getting a Radeon because AMD has beefier hardware specs these days. It's just everything else that they're a little behind on NVIDIA on. And I've been following this for a while. I seriously think that Radeons are going to be a lot more competitive the next time I'm going to buy a graphics card. Because at the same time that AMD is really putting a ton of effort into trying to be more compelling, at least a sleeper hit at the very least. They may not be overtly going after NVIDIA, but they're definitely playing around with better hardware than what NVIDIA is willing to do. NVIDIA is turning into another Intel. Intel, a while back, many years ago, started getting kind of sleepy with their processors, and that opened up the go-ahead space, so to speak, for AMD to develop the Ryzen and get back into the game after the jokingly terrible construction equipment processors and stuff along those lines. Hey, speaking of seeing if stuff still works, does this still work? That works.
Roger, 10-4. Truckers are rolling this morning.
Tonka! Thank you for the YouTube sub circa March 7th. It is now the 30th. Needless to say, I got some catch up to do, and we'll want to keep our drinks at the handy for this, though. It is also, what is it down to for humidity in here? 42%. It is super dry. We're at the end of March, and our dew point is in the single digits. It was cold and dry today. Yeah, it was March, warmer than it otherwise would be in January, but you walked outside and it still felt like January because everything's cold and dry. So it is another one of those days where you get thirsty and you don't know why and stuff along those lines. Chico saying is, I'm rocking an RX 5600 XT, and it's been very well. I'm planning on getting an RX 6700 XT or wait for 7700 XT. See, before we get into our rant about Elder Scrolls Online tonight, let me just clear up this little Radeon thing. Radeon, I mean, I've had Radeons before. There was a time when NVIDIA was terrible, the Fermi era, when NVIDIA made these power sucker, heat sucker, whatever it is, these cards that ran very badly for crappier performance. Think like the GeForce FX. And then things came back, well, in the 2000s, it was the GeForce FX. NVIDIA hasn't always been on top of their game. You had the GeForce FX in the 2000s, which was a joke compared to the Radeon, it was what, 97? Yeah, the Radeon 9700 that was making the rounds back then. So there was a time when ATI, before AMD bought them out, there was a time when Radeons were better. Then we had the Fermi era where NVIDIA cards were sucking tons of power for performance. It's like Intel. Intel has stuff that runs hot. Some processors they have nowadays with Alder Lake and stuff, or Raptor Lake, runs so hot. I think it's Raptor Lake. It runs so hot that it thermal throttles with the stock cooler or whatever it is. So you need to upgrade the cooling or something in order just to get your processor to run at 100% because they were caught with the inferior manufacturing technology. Similar to AMD with the infamous FX 9590. So back in those days, there's Dan saying hi for the first time since, what was the last time I did this stuff? I was doing Too Cheap to Get Hogwarts Legacy about a month or so ago. And, well, now I have Hogwarts Legacy. I've played through the game. I played through quite a bit of the game, and I've watched as the hate campaign against it completely fell on its ass on the internet. So it's been fun watching all these hateful people who live on the internet and can't actually do something with their lives try to bully people who are involved with this game that isn't even J.K. Rowling's biggest income stream. Now, there's bigger ways. If you want to stick it to J.K. Rowling, number one, buy a PS5. There's actually consoles getting into stock right now. Buy a PS5 and look for a secondhand copy of Hogwarts at GameStop or something. They exist. Why is nobody talking about that on the internet? Why aren't there big YouTube videos about Hogwarts Legacy, boo-hoo-hoo, but I want to play the game? I know. I'm going to buy a secondhand copy. You know, just a couple of years ago, that was a hot topic of discussion because the console companies were aggressively trying to deprecate the used game market. These used games, people aren't buying games new, they're just buying them used so they can get them cheaper. And then the GameStop's getting rich and not us. Whatever are we going to do? I mean, it used to be a huge discussion about sticking it to the big game companies by buying used games. If you didn't think a game was good enough to buy new, you would just get it used. You know, and you would the reseller or the eBay seller or the game store would make money, but not, I mean, the game is already bought and paid for by the original owner. But where'd literally all of that argument go with people freaking out about Hogwarts Legacy? I heard it in one little tidbit, in one little article. All these people that hate J.K. Rowling, but they just want to play this game. And even the guides going around on how to hide your achievements and stuff like that. Well, why is nobody wanting to talk about just play it secondhand? This is not a games as a service game. Hogwarts Legacy is a regular freaking video game. That's been a shock to the system for someone like me who's been playing monetized games as a service games for years now. But yeah, this is it. This is video games the way I remember them. That's one of the reasons why I like the game so much, despite its terrible performance. It's an old-fashioned video game. You buy the game and you play it. You don't have screwy stuff locked on the disc. You don't have this. You don't have that. You don't have all the gimmicks these big gaming companies like ZeniMax Online, with what they've recently done with Elder Scrolls Online, have done to gamers. You don't have this garbage going on. You just buy the game and you play it. Dan says, I've seen some ordinary gamers, when the people heard about the game, said buy used game, but didn't like people attacking streamers who want to play. No, there's no reason to bully people on the internet about playing a video game. I mean, there's ways around it. And furthermore, a little bit of sass goes a long way. Going to Vindalia's favorite word here. A little bit of sass goes a long way. Okay, you have a problem with J.K. Rowling, and believe me, she's an out-of-touch rich person. She's one of those people who builds up something successful and thinks that gives them the ability to flip the script. So many people do it. ZeniMax is doing it with ESO. So many other things, so many other people doing that. This is where you get some Hollywood celebrity. They do a couple of good movies that people like and they meme, and they might grow up liking them. And then suddenly they take this wacko political stance. And they're like, I believe in this now. Oh, why are people not watching my movies anymore? Like, what's the problem? Do they not like the real me? Do they not like it? Well, what's going on? Why do people not like that I turned into this political whack job like your crazy uncle at Thanksgiving? You got that. You got the social justice movies that throw away perfectly good franchises where they could make something formulaic and be successful. But instead, no, they got to push some narrative. They gotta bastardize like a cartoon series or a superheroes or comics or whatever that you grew up with in order to push some narrative, and then they wonder why things flop at the box office. And that's at the centerpiece of what happened with ESO and the whole hide shoulders thing. It's yet another example of people who have the rights to a successful piece of intellectual property not sticking to their guns, thinking it gives them the right to snub their customers. Just like with World of Warcraft and their snobby Blizzy knows best era, which is one of the big reasons why I changed MMOs back in the middle of the last decade, because Blizzard was being snotty. Like, we know best. We're your video game mommy here, and we're going to tell you paying customers who've been buying our stuff for years, we're going to tell you what we're doing with this game, and you're going to like it because we know you're not going to go anywhere else because we're the big successful game company with the super successful MMO. How come the sub numbers dropped so much? They started hiding the numbers about the decline of the game, even though some independent projects have kept up with the shrinkage of World of Warcraft over the past decade. How come the game peaked in early Lich King and then it declined afterwards? Cataclysm, Mists of Pandaria, Warlords of Draenor, da-da-da-da. It's like, you lost the ball. You lost the game. You didn't want to, you took your audience for granted. You took your customers for granted. And then now you have ZeniMax Online. You have ZeniMax Online snubbing Elder Scrolls players. People like myself. I first played Morrowind 20 years ago. 20 years ago, Elder Scrolls Morrowind, for all its problems, like swinging a sword right through a mud crab and it calculates as a miss and does 0 damage because there are hidden dice rolls in Morrowind's combat. Janky PlayStation 2 era graphics, crashes to the desktop on PC on a very, very regular basis. Not a very well-running game. The OpenMW project fixed the code base, finally, after all these years, so Morrowind can finally be a reliable game to immerse yourself in if you upgrade it with a super mod and stuff along those lines. Finally, all these years later. But in its early warts and all days, Morrowind was the only game that I played. One game, Morrowind Game of the Year Edition, on CD-ROM, was my entertainment from my last year of college. One game on CD-ROM. In the days when you would leave your CDs in your computer all the time because there'd be disk checks and loading some assets from them because things were slower back then. The game that the original Silver Bullet, AMD Athlon XP 2000, 512 megs of RAM, eventually upgrading past a gig when I got past Windows XP or something like that. The 1.5 gigs was the most XP could do, the XP did, but no, 512 megs of RAM, remember those days? 512 megabytes of RAM, a hot as hell Athlon 2000 Plus processor because it was the space heater era for gaming PCs. Single core, gimmicky numbers from AMD because Intel was selling processors based on their megahertz, the last gasps of the megahertz myth. Pentium 4, 2 gigahertz, and the Athlon equivalent wouldn't be 2 gigahertz, but they put a 2000 in there. It's like, this is the equivalent of a Pentium 4 doing 2 gigahertz. Yeah, back in those heady space heater computer days. Now, I had a colleague in college with the first water-cooled system I ever saw. He had a full tower case with 7 CD-ROM drives, you know, one of those big server chassis. And he used the extra space for plastic tubing, it was a custom loop, but it was done with like industrial or medical tubing or whatever it was. Thick plastic tubing and a Ziploc box for the fluid reservoir. And he used distilled water. Very, very crude compared to what you'll see today at like trade shows and stuff. But it was something. He had a radiator hanging off the back of the computer too. He had the two main hoses went through the back of the system. He drilled through where the fan would normally go, put some grommets in, and then mounted his water cooling hoses, or tubes, I should say. Stuff. And he water cooled the thing with distilled water. So primitive. But yeah, so Morrowind, that was my entertainment for a year. Elder Scrolls Oblivion came out. It had the horse armor scandal, which again was Bethesda back then making a big deal out of something that should have just been part of the game from the beginning. Like, wow, you're in Oblivion. There's a medieval Renfest fantasy thing. You're in Cyrodiil. It's very, very high fantasy. It's got light bloom everywhere. So, I mean, if you played Oblivion, and who hasn't by now, you know what it looks like. But you had Oblivion and all that technology, the speed tree, moving trees and stuff that wasn't a thing in Morrowind. All these graphical improvements and this kind of too much light bloom. There was a Prince of Persia game back then that had that problem too. But there was this obsessive amount of light bloom, and HDR I think was getting experimented with a bit back then, but I never thought it looked good because you had to disable anti-aliasing to get it working. But Oblivion, great game. The worst aged of the Elder Scrolls games nowadays. But I played that, and they had the horse armor scandal. But it was enough of an environment to engross me, but not as long as Morrowind did, because World of Warcraft was out, and I got into MMOs through WoW and Guild Wars. Skyrim, similar situation. I had the layoffs roll around. Plus, I was playing Test Drive Unlimited 2 at the time, so I was flipping between some kind of fantasy game and a driving game, kind of like what I'm doing now with Forza and Hogwarts and Elder Scrolls and ESO. So let's play catch up with the chat here. Dan says, I think Hogwarts Legacy would be a game I'd want to play. I'd wait to play it when people don't care about it anymore. No, it's a regular video game. It's a regular video game. And if you've seen the Harry Potter movies, you'll recognize a lot of the Hogwarts castle and stuff like that. Problem is, it's a system slammer. It's a system slammer. It's the sort of game that it's the new Crisis, essentially. That's the best way to say it here. It's a sort of thing where we'll probably play it again in 5 years and be like, remember when this game used to chug like the Hogwarts Express? Or maybe there'll be some kind of efficiency patch that comes out when it comes out for the slower systems like the PS4 and things like that. I have a Dell with a few gigs at 256 megs of RAM, might turn into a retro gaming machine. And Horse Armor started DLC. It started crappy DLC. The thing is, with what just happened with Elder Scrolls, with ESO, and the whole hidden shoulders thing. It is ESO's horse armor mod. The developers are trying to make something that should be really basic into some big thing. So it's this in-game reward after a certain amount of daily quests during a special event or buying event tickets from the Crown Store. Which was, what's the price on those again? Like $10 or so for an event ticket. So after $50 worth of event tickets or something like that, I got to look that up. But after buying tickets from the Crown Store or, doing in-game events and just running around an overly way too easy world that isn't very believable anymore, because you can have a character running around naked punching everything and still have the game be relatively easy. Or running around in underwear like guy that got hit in Ghosts and Goblins. I should do that actually. Do like the boxer run or something like that. Have a guy run around in his boxer shorts punching everything. So see how far I can get. I'll play a Templar or something. We'll probably do it on PCEU or something like that. Templar, so he can have a heal for himself and then just go around playing the game. Plus I played Templars the most in ESO. All right, so let's kind of lead this into the whole conversation here, because that's at the centerpiece of everything and why I have the title that I have for this. But I just wanted to address this whole thing with the whole Radeon thing and whatnot. I think Radeon has been better in certain points. Radeon was better than GeForce FX for a while. And then there was the Fermi era when they ran too hot. And now we're in a situation where NVIDIA's starting to coast. I mean, have you seen the 4060, the insulting specifications of the 4060 versus like the 3060 Ti or something? I think that when AMD gets a better software package, then they will be more competitive, because NVIDIA is going into a coast phase. That's one of the reasons, too, why I bought the 3060 Ti that I have right now, is that I'm going to take it with me into the next system, and the next system is going to run 1080p because I'm using a 1080p TV. I'm not going past 1080p. And this is something I've had to think about. I used to brag about being able to max out games. Like, I can run things near maxed out. Well, I got to start wondering about that, because I'm having to turn down settings because of, the processor can't handle it, or too much VRAM usage is causing the card to stutter out and start having problems with the frame time. But I'm thinking about that. I'm like, well, what did I just spend all this money on these upgrades for the next system for? And I'm thinking, wait a minute. Today, for a game like Forza Horizon 5, which was made with 4K Xbox Series X in mind, for a game like Forza Horizon 5, maxing out the game means you're running it on a super expensive several $1,000 4K system that's not using upscaling. No FSR, no NVIDIA DLSS, none of that stuff. And by the way, 4K consoles have been hardware tested. I was looking at Gamers Nexus. They tested out a gaming PC that could keep up with a PS5. And they did it with a Ryzen 3 and a GTX 1650. Oh yeah, 4K consoles on the PS5 and the Series X. 4K at what settings? And is there upscaling involved? Because I can tell you, the PC gaming world is in love right now with all this upscaling stuff. You could call it fake 4K if you wanted to, but put a little AI in there. That upscales the graphics and puts some intelligence to upscaling, as opposed to an old-fashioned sharpening filter with NVIDIA DLSS and FSR. And there's actually a utility called DLSS Swapper. So when NVIDIA releases a new DLSS that the vendors aren't pushing out with their games, you can use DLSS Swapper to swap the version of DLSS from the games that you have. So I upgraded Forza a little earlier than the official support date. I also have it for The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, which I haven't even played yet. I've had it sitting in my Steam library for years now. I bought it on Steam sale. Like, this is a popular RPG. One of these days I'll play it. And it's part of my PC backlog and stuff like that. But you have AMD ferociously trying to catch FSR up to DLSS. And you have AMD doing all that. Everybody's in love with upscaling. And I've actually tested this with Forza Horizon 5 at 1080p, comparing DLAA which is supposed to put some of that deep learning and AI stuff in the graphics cards to make the picture better, and swapping between that and DLSS. And I think it's the Blu-ray effect all over again, where you might notice it a little if you're really careful, but overall you're going to get wrapped up in the content. So if your picture isn't as good looking because it's using an upscaler to upscale from a smaller resolution for things like textures or something along those lines, you're eventually going to stop noticing it because you get wrapped up in the game. It's upscaled DVD all over again. It's the difference between streaming in HD and watching a Blu-ray all over again. It's all this stuff all over again. So you have that kind of crap going on. So I wonder about these 4K consoles. The catch that I knew about was 4K at what settings? Does your 4K console, is that the equivalent of playing on a gaming PC at 4K medium settings or something? And now, of course, that DLSS and FSR are so popular right now, do we have a situation on our hands where consoles are getting into this and it's being coded into the games to upscale to 4K from something? So that 4K game you're playing isn't really 4K. It's like a console version of DLSS. Something to think about. What do we have for Dan here? Sticking 1080p when I can upgrade my GPU. The games I play are old, but I'm still on my old GPU. People are sticking with GPUs all over the place. One of the reasons why I bought the 3060 Ti is because I'm a laggard when it comes to upgrading graphics. So it's about a 30% relative performance increase going from my 2060 to a 3060 Ti. I skipped the regular 3060 because I'm like, nah. I wanted it to be a bit of a jump. The improvement right now, going from 2060 to 3060 Ti, is roughly equivalent to going from my Skylake i7 to the hippie chip Ryzen I want to get, the 7900. Ryzen 9 7900. It's $400 though, so I'd be spending more for the processor, even when you factor in inflation, than I spent back in 2016 with the original Monolith. Forza. So I got all this going on here. So, but I'm staying at 1080p. So I have to think about it for a second. Nowadays, maxing out a game means you're playing a game, slamming your system with a workload that's more appropriate for a system that will play 4K native resolution games. Now, previously, in the 1080p era, when I said maxing out a game, I was talking about the best experience I could get at 1080p. So what's the point of me trying to max out games as opposed to playing on medium? What's the point of me trying to max out games if I'm loading 4K textures in a relatively new game that's designed for a 4K system? What's the point? What's the point of me loading all of this 4K stuff? What's the point of me maxing out games anymore? This is something we're all going to have to think about too, especially if we're staying with 1080. Like, I like having a native resolution that doesn't shrink everything down and force me to use UI scaling just to use Windows. Plus, 1080p TVs, cheap, like under $300. Not like the one I got in 2008 that cost me a tax refund because it was $880 for a television back then. 1080p is like baseline nowadays. It's the new 720p. But I mean, for screen size, especially not going beyond 40-inch screen size, I'd have to go at least 43 inches for 4K. And what would that even look like other than a newer panel that looks better? Do I really want to start having use? The only intelligent use I can think of for 4K display is if I want to take a special kind of screenshot, or I take a 4K screenshot and then crop out a 1080p segment of it for a special shot without losing quality. But I can get my 4K screenshot by turning on super scaling and just having it be a little fuzzy on the screen while I take that shot. So let's see what we have here. Let's see, some dumb ones, $50. If you had MicroCenter, because they have really good bundles, even for Ryzen 7000. I have a MicroCenter. If I want to drive to Cambridge, Massachusetts, no thanks. This is the Northeast, Chico. There's plenty of computer nerd stuff around here, especially when you get out of Connecticut and go to Massachusetts. You know, Worcester, Polytech, MIT. There's plenty of nerds around Boston if I want to fight the traffic to go to MicroCenter. It'll be like a pilgrimage for me. Go to a more built-up area where the rents are all like $1,500 a month and crap like that. It's because of the greater Boston area. People assume you got a lot of money because you're working for some nerd company or whatever it is. Logan says you could always go 1440. Not really. I want to use a TV in game mode because the TV is a multifunction device. This is a multifunction device. This television is a multifunction device. So it plays computer stuff, it plays the consoles, it also has smart TV functions. I can turn all the systems off and just use the smart TV to watch stuff. I want to watch TV or movies. It even has Peacock and YouTube apps. So that's how I watched the Harry Potter movies after I got into Hogwarts Legacy. I bought a month of Peacock for $5 and I binge watched all the Harry Potter movies. So now I can finally know what people are talking about when they do memes of Dumbledore or something like that. I didn't grow up with Harry Potter. I've never been a big fan of Harry Potter. I have a blog entry about the whole Hogwarts Legacy thing, multimediaj.wordpress.com. I have my explanation for it. I mean, I'm playing Hogwarts because it's an RPG, and it's very similar to Skyrim. It's a single-player game that you can get immersed into, and there's even a modding scene. So, like, hey, maybe I'll get into the wizarding world with this. I haven't been a big fan of it. I associate it with overly emotional people who get offended at every little thing because they grew up with too many fairy tales as kids. You know, the Barney generation. You're special. Stuff like that. I'm not from the Barney generation. I'm from Sesame Street and Romper Room in the 80s when I was that age. I had children's shows when I was that age that dealt with serious issues like Bert and Ernie not getting along as roommates or something like that. As opposed to Barney making it like life is one big game or something. La 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 la, bust out the Barney bag, blah blah blah. Had some of the sitters I had growing up had little kids, so they'd watch me and their kid at the same time, and I got stuck with them, their kid watching Barney. So I learned at a young age what the difference was with children's television and stuff. Chico says, I remember when I was into Harry Potter and enjoyed the movies, but over the years I got over it. Yeah, I mean, the wizarding world is not a very interesting fantasy setting for me because I've already dealt with Dungeons and Dragons and I've already dealt with Elder Scrolls. And it's the big thing, I talked about this in the blog entry too, the thing I hate the most is the whole Muggles thing. Though if you don't use magic, you're essentially a second-class citizen. That's the Kingdom of Zeal from Chrono Trigger. Like, are you kidding me? That's the Kingdom of Zeal from Chrono Trigger. So, and we know what happened with that if you've played that classic RPG. It's just getting stuck up towards people who don't have magical ability. Well, what if you're in Guild Wars, which went steampunk? You had people who were good with magic, and you had people that were good with tech. And in Star Wars, The Old Republic is the same way too. You have people that use the Force, but the Force users don't totally rule the galaxy. There's also people who are good with gadgets and gizmos and phasers and things like that. Stuff along those lines. So it's kind of arrogant, really. It's kind of arrogant, really, and it's not as fleshed out as, say, Elder Scrolls, where everybody has some magical ability, but some folks use it more than others, like Bretons and High Elves. If you're a Redguard, you're from a culture that hates magic, so you're probably going to be a warrior type instead. So it's a different story with different fantasy settings, but I find that the wizarding world is kind of blah compared to the ones I'm into. But hey, it's a decent game. It reminds me of Skyrim. There's some interesting mods for it. And there's some pop culture tie-ins. I mean, it's the kind of game that I would play, beat, 100% complete, and then move on. Kind of like if I played Witcher 3 one of these years. Or better yet, from my Out of Continues days at the beginning of the last decade, I have a copy of Two Worlds 2 in my Steam library that I never got past the first dungeon. I guess the problem is a lot of these single player RPGs would engross me in the story and the world for a bit. But I'm thinking, what if I just want to like build a house in Elder Scrolls? What do I do with that? Let's catch up with chat here. Of course, I did leave these controllers sitting around so long that the series controller is going through its sticking trigger phase. I keep cleaning the contacts with alcohol, and they keep getting restuck. The Xbox One controllers, though, are all broken in, so I don't have this problem. So I've been playing Forza with these. I almost got rid of the Xbone controllers when I went series controllers for this. So tempted to get a PlayStation controller, but it doesn't even register as X input. So, the most I could do with a PS5 controller is play like a PlayStation 2 emulator with it and have the buttons be right, because I'll just match them up because they'll actually be properly labeled. But I have a PS3 controller that kind of blends PS3 with 360 style with the offset joysticks that I could use for something along those lines. What do we have here with the chat? Grew up with Barney in Sesame Street, but in the early 2000s, Barney is getting rebooted. Yeah, I noticed. Hopefully a whole nother generation of kids now is going to be overly sensitive because they grew up with stuff going into their heads that wouldn't deal with hard issues in life. Don't we already have enough problems with people being absurdly sensitive and hyper offended at absolutely everything? We got enough of that crap going around these days. So what do we got? 35 minutes, 7:23 the Geekcast. Let's get up and stretch a bit and come back and talk about this ESO thing. I want to have a clean break to go into the discussion about this. But I will say, if you've been insulted by things like the Grand Theft Auto shark cards, abuse of microtransactions, or anything EA has done, you're probably going to resonate very well with this thing that ZeniMax has just done, because Elder Scrolls Online... Look, I started playing Elder Scrolls Online when World of Warcraft was crap because Blizzard was stuck up. I have this nasty feeling nowadays that these two companies have changed places, but it's nothing that us gamers haven't already seen before. Let's play some music. right, how about we get to the meat of the discussion here? Stuff along those lines. Is this working right still? I always get this nagging feeling that something screws up whenever I walk away. All right, how about we get to the meat? Well, that's cool. Hey, Chico, when did you become a member? Do you have your stuff on private? Or maybe it's that I don't see the notification on here because for some reason Stream Elements is really screwed up. They have Tonka subbing to my channel on March 7th, and then the next line entry after that is May 31st, 2021. So something really weird's going on with the activity log. But hey, thanks for the support and whatnot. That sounded so generic. Maybe because I'm not used to people being nice to me. I don't know what the story is with that. People usually either for neutral or treat me like crap or whatever. Never did understand. Just got it recently. Yeah, so it's one of those optional things. I don't go wild with the monetization. The ad revenue across the internet is collapsing hard because of the uncertainty about the economy as well as the retrenchment of the tech industry right now. Just ad rates. A lot of people that depend on ad revenue who are full-time content creators are having little rants like Clownfish TV and maybe some other YouTubers as well. So, but that's a lesson I learned in the dot-com crash. One of the reasons why the dot-com crash happened, internet advertising didn't pay for everything. It didn't pay for free internet with the original Net Zero and lots of other businesses that thought, there was even an as seen on TV product called the Internet Business Toolbox that was supposed to give you a .com style business. Like everybody could have a business on the internet. Yeah, and what if nobody goes to your website or buys anything? It's like the internet version of MLM, essentially. Not good. And of course, people learn their lesson from that. And there's some memes from that, like the Domino PCs video that I have in my classic YouTube playlist. So, but it's great to see. I mean, I've always done casual monetization, but here's the thing. I'm in a weird job situation right now where I really feel like I should get a better job this year because of what happened with going to day shift and everything. There's not really any place there where I'm really gonna enjoy doing what I do for a living with these folks anymore. There's some other places that are like that, and I think there's some other places that'd be a good trade up from where I'm at right now with these 9-to-5ers. So I'm kind of nervous about spending anything specifically right now while I'm not certain where I'm going to be in a couple of months, and it's causing other problems too. But I think I might want to spring for $1,000 upgrade to Ryzen 7000 series, the 7900, and upgrade the processor later. Because, I mean, Intel is supposed to improve things with their next round of, like, Arrow Lake processors. But do I really want to wait until the sun's going down on Windows 10 to have something that supports Windows 11 ready to go? And I'm actually going to install Windows 10 if I can on the next system I build and then upgrade it to Windows 11 whenever I'm ready for it. But, I just don't want to have hack job Windows 11 on a daily driver main system. Plus, this monolith is going to become 2010's monolith whenever I do that. So, I might just bite the bullet and get smacked butt to the tune of $1,000 to get some CPU performance back. Because you've seen when I've been game streaming, there's been stuttering going on. I've been watching the numbers because I reinstalled MSI Afterburner on my system. And I'm noticing that the way I play games right now, yeah, they use the majority of the CPU and GPU. CPU in particular is the one I'm more concerned about. So the Skylake, which is now the equivalent of a Core i3 nowadays, is showing its age. I upgraded Windows 11 for a while. It works fine. Place I'm at, they sent upgrades around, then they downloaded it. They downgraded it. Well, the Logan, it's hyper-thread. It's a 4-core 8-thread. So it's not like 4-4. So, but there's Core i3s. There's Core i3s that perform better. That's the weird part. Core i3 now means the processor that I have because of developments over the past several years. Windows 11, I tried using it before the folks at work made me downgrade back to 10 because it broke everything. What do you have here? There's a deal where you get R9 7900 and you get $60 off an AM5 board. Yeah, I might check that. I might check that. The other wild card is electronics is always cheaper in the second half of the year because of Christmas sales. Everyone getting ready for Black Friday, there's more volume. Volume lets you lower the price. So plus fuel prices come down because of less environmental regulations on winter fuel. So the real hand wringer for this is wait until Christmas to see things drop down and some more of the inflation to drop off. Or maybe the economy slows down and prices drop because of that. So if you can't sell anything because nobody can afford it, you're going to have to drop your price anyways. So see what's going on, especially with the interest rate increases that have been going on at the federal level and all the impact that's starting to have right now to cool things off and cut the inflation. So it's a real hand wringer here. I mean, I would like to have more CPU resources available, plus gaming as well. I'm seeing some stuttering because of spikes to 100% on the processor, some of which is also caused by upgrading to faster storage. So loading assets will slam the processor more than it used to with a hard drive or even a serial ATA SSD. So it's something that I really have to work on here. What are we at? 45 minutes in? All right. What do you suppose we actually get to a little rant about how much gaming sucks these days and how gaming companies treat gamers like garbage? Now, with me, it's ZeniMax and Elder Scrolls Online. Maybe some of you folks dealt with this from Nintendo or EA or Ubisoft or something like that, or Atlas Publishing or whatever the heck that company was. It was DMCAing people, something like that. Let's see. MicroCenter. I do want 32 gigs though. $600. They have an online store though. I wonder. Yeah. Jagex, is that another one? I think it was Atlas. That was one of the more questionable names. But the reason why we're here, I mean, I've been too tired to do much of anything except play Forza. It's in store only. Of course, those darn spoiled MicroCenter people. Whatever. Anyways. Oh, man. So why doesn't someone partner with MicroCenter to give them an e-tailing presence without them having to spend anything? Would they compete with Newegg too much? I don't know. Anyways, here's what happened and the reason why we're here. I've been tired going from night shift to day shift, having another round of COVID with XBB 1.5, which knocked me out of work for a week and blew all my sick time for the year. Another reason to get another job. Mandatory isolation, 5 days sick time a year. So I would have, even if I hadn't taken sick days earlier, it would have blown the rest of it. Whatever. So yeah, that going on. Move to an easier job, going back to the kind of less in case warehouse restocking that I've done on and off in between tech gigs before. So familiar territory, but I don't really know if it's really worth it to get good at this stuff again. When I know there's a lot of places hiring and there's other stuff I could do, or I could, get a change of scenery or try new things. I know I could come back to this if there was literally nothing else left, but I really need to show some initiative here. I want to better my situation, not have to deal with crap caused by a place going to one shift because the business is shrinking. Oh yeah, they're doing well on their internal metrics versus their budget, but their budget is just, they can set whatever their budget is and then go for those targets. So it doesn't say anything to me about the health of the business that if they set realistic targets based on the overall health of the company. And, we did that. I mean, there's ways to hide. There's ways to hide the decline of a business in spreadsheets, but there isn't ways to hide the decline of a business due to opportunities drying up. And that's what we have right now. If you work where I'm at, you're going to do some stupid ass warehouse job forever for your boss who's been there forever, who has gotten to have a career unlike you at your expense. Plain as day. So, yeah. MicroCenter snobs. Stop rubbing it in that you actually have MicroCenter. Darn it. Oh, man. You might as well be asking me for Grey Poupon, all you MicroCenter people. Elder Scrolls Online. Been playing this game since 2016. Been playing since 2016. The reason why I made the switch from World of Warcraft is because Blizzard was all stuck up. Blizzy knows best. They were your video game mommy. Share your toys, little man, or whatever. Stupid. They were so drunk off of their success They were so drunk off of their success that they thought that they could snub their paying customers, and their paying customers would just keep coming back. It's WoW. You're addicted. You're always going to come back to WoW. You're never going to go away for good. Oh, where are all the players going? How come WoW peaked in early Lich King? Now, this goes back to Total Biscuit, if you want to know how far this goes back, before he passed away. When he stopped covering, I mean, Total Biscuit was one of the who's who's of World of Warcraft journalism in the late 2000s, with WoW Radio, the unofficial radio station, running podcasts and music related to World of Warcraft and gaming. Used to listen to it all the time back in the day while I was doing my dailies or grinding or whatever and Burning Crusade and Lich King. Great stuff. There was Total Biscuit, there was Terpster, there was the WoW Insider Show, there was Casually Hardcore, there was Octale and Hordak versus the World. Whatever happened to all these personalities, I only know where a few of them went. The rest, I don't know. So you had all this stuff going on back as the 2010s began with gaming and stuff like that. And Total Biscuit went and did his own channel for a couple of years. And part of his reason for leaving Cataclysm was because the fundamental philosophy that Blizzard was using changed. They went from you needing to put in effort to get somewhere in the game to them handing you stuff. So the player base deteriorated quite quickly because they knew all they had to do to get something nerfed was whine long enough. And eventually, WoW settled into this pattern where instead of putting some effort in to go through the content, you were handed catch-up gear very, very easily, and all that mattered was the current landmass, the current expansion, the current raid. Not a very good thing when you're supposed to talk about this huge world that you're supposed to be able to have like some online existence in with your warrior or your priest or your warlock or your mage or whatever. So, I mean, RPGs going into the MMO era were getting bigger and more expansive in the offline world. In my Morrowind days, I had like hundreds of screenshots, which looked like looking through someone's family photos at my character's progression through the game. But we could only share screenshots on internet forums back then because the technology like YouTube wasn't a thing yet. Couldn't do Let's Plays, couldn't do gaming videos, couldn't do streams, couldn't do any of that stuff. So we all kind of had to keep our stories to ourselves and maybe show off some like pictures of mods or something. Now you get to the decline of WoW. They get snotty and stuck up. I end up changing games. Elder Scrolls Online, which has fought its own mediocrity for its entire existence, started out as a terrible WoW clone, but instead of Alliance and Horde, they had the 3 PvP factions. You were restricted as to where you could go in the world. They're only depending on which of the factions you were in. So it didn't play like an Elder Scrolls game. There weren't a lot of elements. There wasn't a justice system. Your character couldn't be a thief and try to steal stuff and not get caught by the guards. There's all kinds of other stuff. That all got eventually fixed and rolled out, and by the time in 2016, the 1 Tamriel patch, this game was finally starting to resemble Morrowind, Oblivion, and Skyrim, 3 games that I enjoyed very, very much. So I made the switch. Nowadays, I gotta wonder about these devs. I gotta wonder about Rich Lambert. I gotta wonder about Gina Bruno. I gotta wonder about all these people who are in charge of this game right now, because they're just getting more and more out of base, out of touch, out in space somewhere. That's what I meant, not out of base. Next thing I know, I'll be saying ace of base. But they're lost in space somewhere. So here's why we're here. For the Jesters Festival event in-game, which is the April Fool's Day event, I gotta do something on this channel, too. Don't really know what I want to do, though. Maybe I'll just skip April Fool's this year, who knows. But there's the Jesters Festival event that's going on in-game right now. One of the rewards with event tickets is the ability for your character to hide your shoulders. So if you want a plainclothes character who wears a shirt and some pants or something, without having a big, huge suit of armor or flowing robes or anything like that, you can do that. World of Warcraft has had this since Legion. And they got it by upgrading the transmog system. They've put in some more things since then. In the name of trying to respect more of players' freedom to express themselves however they want in game, WoW now has to where you can hide shoulders, cape, hood. You even hide your chest piece if you're wearing armor. You can play as a shirtless orc going around smashing things with a hammer as an arms warrior or something, or along those lines. And hey, it's all about how you want to play the game. Blizzard's not wagging their fingers as much as they used to. So the cosmetic appearances in the game have gotten really wild. For Dragonflight, they included white items, which is the lowest quality items in the game, the vendor trash items. So I've thought about resubbing and reinstalling WoW, and then having a character, a farmer character with like redneck shirt, redneck pants, and a huge shovel go around smashing stuff. Because now you can do that in the game. Because they've changed up the cosmetics so much. Like have a guy with a lumberjack shirt and a shovel go around smashing stuff with garden tools and ride a motorcycle everywhere. That's basically what Blizzard has set up with their transmog system now. But they at least had the sense to just make it so that it's a UI feature. It's a character appearance thing. They had the sense to put all this stuff in there. Hide cloak, hide helmet, hide all this other stuff. They had the sense to put all of this in as patch stuff. Fast forward a couple of years later for hide shoulders, ZeniMax can't do that. And they don't do that. They put in hide shoulders as something you have to grind for a little. You have to do some daily quests to get event tickets during the special events or buy them from the Crown Store just to unlock the ability to hide your character's armor shoulders at 500 gold per application. What the hell, Zoss? Why am I not surprised that the same game devs that are responsible for saying they're fixing bugs, and yet years and years and years later, there's still glitches where your character will walk on their weapons. There's still glitches to where if your character gets knocked off their mount when they're trying to ride by enemies, they'll stay in mount mode, but they'll be on the ground, but they'll be running at normal speeds. They can't run away, but you can't use any of your weapon skills or abilities because the system is treating you like you're still on your mount. Why is that bug still a thing? Why is that glitch still a thing? No, it's just crazy. It's just absolutely crazy. ZeniMax decided to make you waste your time doing daily quests just to unlock something that should have just been a UI thing. You have to spend 5 in-game event tickets, which are only available in-game during special events. April Fool's Day, Summer Festival, Autumn Festival, the Halloween event, the Thanksgiving event, the Christmas event. It's only available during special events in-game. You can buy from the impresario or their assistant anytime you want. But it's only available through event tickets. Of course, you can buy them from the Crown Store. It's what, like $10 a ticket or something? So $50 worth of tickets. Just for the ability to hide your shoulders. Now, I would be able to find some YouTube videos. I would be able to find some YouTube videos from some YouTubers that used to complain about this stuff all the time, make videos about all these stupid things that ZeniMax does with this game. They're basically pulling from EA's playbook. Or, in some cases, Nintendo, with some of the tackier stuff Nintendo has done. It's stupid. It's your typical stuck-up gaming company snubbing their paying customers, then wondering why their customers get upset. At least the ones that do, because they're busy arguing with all the fanboys that pretend that these companies never do anything wrong, like I was doing this afternoon. Let me see if I've been banned from Tyranny's Discord or something. Good. They had the sense to, let's see. Oh, good. They had the sense to leave me alone on this one. All these people accusing me of all kinds of stuff. They're making a big deal out of things. I'm comparing apples and oranges. Just comparing ESO to WoW and stuff. Look, this happens in other games too. This happens in lots of other games. It's stupid. These AAA companies, they think that they're always going to get our money no matter what. And then they do this. Let me give you another example. Ubisoft. The Crew 2. Been playing out how many years now? Over 5 years. It came out before Forza Horizon 4. There's a glitch in the game. It has cars, boats, and planes for racing. With the boats, depending on the model of boat you play, the jet boats do this more than the power boats. You will see the ocean water, which looks great, by the way, in cinematics and in-game, clip through your boat like you're about to sink. This has never been fixed in over 5 years of the Crew 2. So you play in a certain boat, and you have water clipping through the boat the whole time, like you're taking on water and you're about to sink. They couldn't even fix that in years of this game doing car, boat, and plane racing. Why? Oh, it's Ubisoft. Do they not have the money to fix something this basic? So that if you're in a boat and you pan the camera around in first-person view, you see the inside of your boat instead of the water clipping through the boat? Why? Why can't this be fixed? Then we can talk about, so then we go back to, Dan says, yeah, making a UI thing a cosmetic. This should just be part of the UI. It should just be an upgrade. Like, here, players, thanks for playing the game. We've expanded our system. It is a transmog system. It's called an outfit system. We've expanded our our cosmetic appearance system so that you can now hide your shoulders, just like you can hide your helmet now. Oh, and you can hide your helmet for free. Of course, taking off your helmet, that, could explain it, versus 500 gold to make your shoulders disappear because you want a more plain clothes look. Fine, yeah, but why wall this behind daily quests? Why wall this behind 5 tickets? Which mean that in one in-game event you're playing, you're not going to be able to get something else with those tickets that you have to spend. So, I mean, there's rewards that are like 2 tickets, 3 tickets, 4 tickets, 5 tickets is expensive because you're only allowed up to 12 at any one time. So you're only allowed up to 12 tickets and you have to spend them. There's a maximum of that currency of 12. But I'm just disgusted. Like, it's called World of Warcraft. It's called setting a precedent, and it's called not making a freaking horse armor mistake. Horse armor. You're playing a game like Oblivion. It's a high fantasy, glitzy, flowery Oblivion, high fantasy RPG. You expect to see horses in game. Maybe somebody will put armor on those horses, but no. It had to be DLC that you paid for. It's a meme nowadays. Probably the first ever microtransaction in these darn games. But it was stupid. You know what's another game series that ticks me off? The Sims. The names of like Sims expansion packs are always stuff that just should have been in the game in the first place. Take Sims 2, the one I've played the most. I gave up on the Sims after I bought enough of their darn expansions. You start with basic Sims 2, then you gain the ability for your Sims to go to college. Then you gain the ability for them to go out to nightclubs, at nightlife. You gain the ability for them to have pets and holidays and romance and all these things. And you got to wonder, could this have just been in the game from the beginning? Why do you have to spend the equivalent of buying a budget game to have something basic like being able to have a pet added to a version of The Sims that wasn't the original? And then what if you go from The Sims 2 to The Sims 3 to The Sims 4 or whatever, you have to rebuy expansions to get those features back? Like, it can't even be a sense of progression either, where the original Sims game was this big, then the next one was this, then this, then this. Why? It's ridiculous. Some of this monetization just doesn't make any sense if you're a longtime fan of certain kinds of games. So it's like, suppose a Nintendo Switch has a successor next year. Yeah, the original Switch is circa the late 2010s. The hardware use for it is very, very outdated at this point. But let's suppose there's a new Mario Kart game and you're starting over, or there's a new Smash Brothers game and you're starting over. Like, at some point it just gets ridiculous that you keep rebuying the same stuff over and over again. And that's the criticism sometimes, that you're buying the same games over and over again. It's just ridiculous. Oh, Grow Together, that's the new pack, Dan. You can have You can have infants, but you can't have the features having a baby sim. So, oh, we have babies in our game. Yeah, it's ridiculous. What is that, like the Sims Rugrats edition? Ugh. But anyways, that's what ticked me off about all of this. Let me go back and let me reread my own posts in the Discord here. I was ranting about this with Tyranny's folks in her ESO banter channel. She got upset with me. A bunch of other fans got upset with me. Look at this is beyond absurd. Hiding shoulders is an event ticket reward. There is no bottom with the directionless Grand Poobahs at Zoss. So it's just tone deaf. Meanwhile, World of Warcraft has tons of UI customizations to add certain armor pieces just as part of a patch. So you think about all of this monetization, you think about all these ways. Another issue too, and this might be something that doesn't really resonate much with people that don't play MMOs, but then there's the whole things that are designed just to keep you logging into the game that aren't really content. Like it just, instead of just letting the customers go off and play something else while your game isn't doing anything because you need to make something, have some stupid thing to keep them in the game. This is a conversation that people had regarding World of Warcraft and Final Fantasy. Which of the two games respects your time more? If you're going to be playing these MMOs, do they let you go play something else for a bit because they know you're going to come, they trust you'll come back? Or do they give you some totally brain dead D- stuff to do in game? Totally brain dead D- stuff to do in game just to keep you playing, even if you're not really playing. Like mindless grinding or something, or stupid time-gated stuff like what World of Warcraft did in Warlords of Draenor. And they wonder why so many customers walked away from the game, because Apexis dailies, stupid little progress bar inches across every time you kill an enemy in a zone until it hits 100%. That's your content for the day. How many hours you spend doing that, or fooling around your garrison, or whatever it is, versus what else could you have played in that time? Could you have gotten a better gaming experience by canceling your sub? Oh, and they were doing gimmicks where you would get like a mount if you bought 6 months of subs and you locked yourself into having a sub for 6 months to a year. We'll give you a mount. WoW is doing gimmicks like that too. What else could you have done with the time, though, while they were spending a year with no content at the end of Mists of Pandaria, at the end of Warlords of Draenor, etc.? Lich King, even. Oh, wait, there was Ruby's Sanctum, little thing with dragons in it. There's my issues with events every month, with games. I want to do the quests or whatever. Well, ZeniMax can never get these things right. They just recently set it up so that it wasn't worth it for the event ticket games for you to grind them on all your characters, so you can actually do something else besides do the daily. All that you're doing in Elder Scrolls Online stops because you're doing ticket quests every day. But even that's changed. Yeah, even that's not true, because if they double the amount of experience or they double the amount of resources you get for making stuff in the crafting system, of course you're going to mindlessly play the game running from node to node while you're getting double out of each one and then build something when the event is over. So I usually do podcasts or something. I'll watch a podcast or something. I'll go watch a podcast or something while all that's going on. But I'm just disgusted. ZeniMax is just so tone deaf. Look, here's the ESO experience. You've been seeing, why don't we get my mug off the screen here and go over to browser mode, which has some people are responding to some of my tweets. Give me a duplicate Twitter window and let me see what these people are saying. Oh, people are happy about, mid-rolls and stuff. Yeah. So let me just go over and this will be like a thing as well. While we finish up the rest of this. Zoss Kevin, just to clarify here, the Hide Shoulders event is available during Jester's Festival. They are not available on the test server. It will be when the event is live. The Hide Shoulders function will not be available for gold. We noted the following in the patch notes for Week 1 PTS. After Jester's Festival ends, the Hide Shoulder collectible will be on her assistant Phyllis Dormier forevermore. However, the shoulders will still be purchasable with event tickets year-round at this vendor, not with gold. So they're taking a basic UI function. They're taking a really basic UI function of hiding your shoulders And either you waste time in the game doing a stupidly easy quest running from point A to point B most of the time, or you spend money in the Crown Store to buy event tickets. It's like, respect your player base, ZeniMax. It's making me like WoW again. World of Warcraft had Dragonflight come out, trying to expand on things that were going on in Shadowlands, but they still didn't really have the player freedom thing down pat. That's the reason why I didn't really stick with WoW too much. I don't know if I want to stick with any MMOs right now. I'm having too much fun with real games. Some of you people will probably be celebrating that, both now and in the after-the-fact crowd. You know, MMOs have guzzled up so much of my gaming time over the past 10-plus years. Now, since WoW in 2006, the time I've had this YouTube channel, the entire time I've had this YouTube channel, MMOs have been a dent in everything I could have done with my free time. World of Warcraft, Ion, Final Fantasy, Warhammer Age of Reckoning, you know, so many of these games that I've played over the years. And what have I really enjoyed all the experience, or did I spend a lot of time grinding? Did I spend time what I call ADD gaming or something, where I'm listening to something on screen 2 while grinding mindlessly on screen 1? Versus Forza, Hogwarts Legacy, The Witcher, all these games I could be playing. Get a Nintendo, get a Switch and play Smash or Mario Kart. You know, play some Nintendo games for the first time since I was a kid. Of course, now it's a little late for me to get into the Switch scene. I'm going to see if there's a new hardware revision coming up anytime soon. But consoles are kind of ticking me off lately because of all these gotchas that we keep seeing. Like, there's a problem with certain production runs of the Wii U that can brick your console because a NAND chip or something in the system memory loses all its charge or whatever and then takes down the system. And that's a hardware problem. So now you got to surface mount solder new chips on and stuff like that, which I'm not going to bother with because I'm not that desperate for a Nintendo box. But and then there's the Xbox batteries from the original Xbox. Like, how many more of these proprietary gotchas formerly reserved for like proprietary off-the-shelf PCs are we going to see in consoles? It's like, so I don't know about consoles at this point. But yeah, these games, man, what have they done? Is it really worth it to get my arm twisted by an MMO company anymore? As opposed to playing Forza. I've been having more fun with Forza Horizon 5 Rally Adventure than I've had with ESO. The reason why I found out about this is because I was playing Rally Adventure, and it's a really rowdy game. I wanted to kind of quiet down for the evening and get ready to go to bed. So I'm like, let's see what's going on in ESO. I'm like, oh, look, the hide shoulders thing that they said they were going to do this year is out right now. Then I find, how do I get it? Event tickets. Like, what? You can't just let us do that right off the bat, like hiding our helmet. World of Warcraft has how many things you can hide that they've been adding in? Some of these features are 5 years old, but not ZOS. They got to try and sneak some monetization in there and do other slimy stuff. Another thing they do too is they took advantage of new players once by selling stuff in the Crown Store. So you'd pay $5 to respec your character or whatever it is, when it doesn't take very much in-game gold to do that in-game. So just the microtransactions and other stuff. And I'm surprised some of you people aren't saying more about this in the chat, because I've seen some of you folks' videos ranting about this stuff, that it's getting kind of stupid and stale and whatever. Either way, we'll see what happens in the comments after the fact, if anybody even stops by, depending on how well the YouTube algorithms are working, because I know people are sick of this stuff. The thing is, though, there are some people who would have otherwise called out this crap. There were some ESO YouTubers who would call out crap like this, but a lot of them have been insulted away to other games, so they've just had enough of ZeniMax's garbage. Sawman UK is a great example of this. But let me actually switch over to browser mode, and let's go over what's open right now. So this is just a little something I found earlier. So you can disable, YouTube streamers can disable mid-rolls, and the pre-rolls are skippable. I was wondering if there were mid-rolls being interjected in. Now you have explicit control over whether or not your stream has mid-rolls versus Twitch streamers doing the mid-roll dance. So here we go. I mean, here's why I haven't been playing ESO. This is Forza Horizon 5 Rally Adventure. Really good looking screenshot. And the graphics are pretty good, even though I have them close to max. Graphics are pretty decent, especially when things are in motion, using about 3/4 of the graphics card to do 60 frames per second with this. But here we go. I mean, just rallying. You mess around in the open world. You can race and gain credits to buy cars and upgrade your cars. The big thing, too, is that unlike what happened with Forza Horizon 4, which barfed cars and money at you just for playing the game, there's a bit slower progression in this game. You have to do more to end up with the same amount of credits to buy the same amount of cars. They tune that down so it feels more like progression in Forza now, as opposed to it spitting cars at you that you don't know when you're going to drive them. Or you end up with all these credits out of nowhere that you don't want to do anything with. So they have another expansion, Hot Wheels. They have a Hot Wheels expansion too, where your cars race around on Hot Wheels tracks as well. It kind of reminds me of F-Zero once you start getting a little faster, but I'm not there yet. Maybe it will, but when I get up to like S2 class or something, which is 200-mile-an-hour cars and stuff, might be more fun that way. But I mean, I can put up with ESO's gimmicks, or I can put up with this. I bought one DLC, the premium pack, the premium edition of Forza Horizon 5 on the Microsoft Store when it was on sale with my Xbox Game Pass that I was trying out a couple of months ago. I subscribed to Game Pass, bought this game at a discount, as well as the DLC that gave you extra cars, VIP super wheel spins, which are a great source of money in this game, by the way. Yeah, it's pay to win, but it's, instead of having to go grinding races all over the place, you get every couple of days, you have the chance to get like a couple 100,000 credits and upgrade a bunch of your cars. So, I mean, I did that in Forza Horizon 4 as well. You also get special cars and other stuff, and also access to the DLCs. So paying a little extra when I bought the game got me the Hot Wheels expansion and this Rally expansion, as opposed to however much I've been spending on ESO for the past couple of years. And for what? What is the ESO experience like? The ESO experience is you have a world that's too easy most of the time. Like I said, we gotta do the whole thing where the guy runs around in his underwear like, ghosts and goblins punching everything, and see how easy it is to play the game with a Templar with no weapons that's going around the overworld. The overworld it's like the enemies are paper props. It's boring because there's no sense of danger in the world, unlike, say, WoW Classic or something, where you get mad at the game because you actually have to learn how to play it well instead of getting coddled by the devs and being handed everything. So there's a sense of progression, as opposed to swiping a credit card is how you do what it is that you do in the game. So it's just insane. I mean, look, I can play ESO, and yeah, I'm established. I have a lot of high-level characters in the game. They look good with their fashionable outfits, and I have a couple of castles, and I can film machinima like that stuff I did last Christmas. Or I can play real games like this, or like Hogwarts, or like Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. It's one of the reasons why you haven't been seeing me as much. I've actually been being a real gamer, especially when I'm too tired to do anything else with this job crap that's going on. I made the decision to stop streaming my initial experiences on video games so I can experience them the normal way and not have them potentially ruined by the need to stream them. Even if I have a perfect stream with people supporting everything that I do throughout the entire stream, it's still different doing game streaming as opposed to playing games the normal way. So I'm still trading out one experience that I'd be having with the game for another one, if you know what I mean. It's different streaming games as opposed to playing them the normal way. So I've been enjoying that. I enjoyed it with Hogwarts. I'm enjoying it with Forza Horizon 4 and 5. Anybody who has me friended on Xbox has probably seen me flip in and out of those games, and also on Steam. Anybody that wants to friend me on Steam can see me, flip in and out of games in the Steam list as well. But it's just a thing. I can put up with ZeniMax's gimmicks like Cyrodiil, lag, the glitches. I can, continue playing the game and stuff like that. I can put up with all that garbage, or I can play this and enjoy things a heck of a lot more. I might get someone's jerk kid ramming me off the road in a race because this is the arcade Forza game as opposed to Forza Motorsport. You know, I can play this game and enjoy it. And it's not like a giant strain on my wallet. It's not some stupid ass gimmick. There's no time gated stuff like what I'm dealing with in the MMOs. And most importantly, I don't have fanboys accusing me of wanting more out of my games for less, as if that's what I'm saying here. Completely wrong. Here's one of the fundamental weaknesses of games like Elder Scrolls. The game is incredibly sandboxable, so the company is treating its paying customers. So the company is streaming the company's treating its paying customers like just because the game is sandboxable and there's a large amount of making your own fun that they can snub their customers and get away with it. Needless to say, I don't agree with that at all. Treat your customers with respect. Don't resort to gimmicks. It's kind of like the same thing with the ESO stream team. Why does Elder Scrolls need a special company-manipulated team of Twitch streamers who are under agreement to not badmouth the game? I've read the rules. Why does ZeniMax need to interfere with people's conversations about their product instead of just making a good product that people largely say good things about? Why do they have to resort to this garbage? Why do they have to have drop campaign after drop campaign after drop campaign where, oh, watch a streamer for an hour, you get an Ouroboros crown crate, which if those of you that don't understand the ESO crown store, stupid ass things that you will get through your daily login rewards with a subscription to the game. It's usually not worth it to use the stuff in the Ouroboros crates, as opposed to turning them in for gems, which you can use to buy stuff from the Crown Store section. It's not worth it. Why do we need to artificially prop up streamers' numbers, who are, most of them, they also have exclusive giveaways and other codes for things like pets and stuff in game. But the thing is, Elder Scrolls needs to be a popular game for that to really scale up in the first place. And you know what? It's not. In the early days of the game, the days of the Angry Joe review of the game, it was terrible. A horrible WoW clone with 3 factions instead of 2 that had an Elder Scrolls coat of paint on it. They finally took it in the direction of being more like an Elder Scrolls game when I first started playing it. And what do they have to show for it? Well, you know what? It's 8:10 now at the Geek House. I went and I checked the viewership on Twitch, since ZeniMax feels the need to manipulate the discussion about their own game. I went on Twitch and I actually took a look at how these games are doing 6 o'clock in the evening, my time, prime time here on the US East Coast. And you know what? We're going to look at these numbers and we're going to refresh all of these to see what has changed after we go through them. So here's a real game. Here's Forza Horizon 5. Looks great, runs really well, have a lot of fun hooning around the outdoor world. I can deal with people by playing online races, or I can deal with drive-avatars and do offline races. I can do whatever I want in this game. But there's content. Just because the game is sandboxable doesn't automatically mean that I have to, that you know, Playground snubs me or Microsoft snubs me with this game. They didn't do it with this. They didn't do it with 4. I mean, the game has some problems like any other one out there, but you got this. Now, let's go check out this viewership. This is during US prime time, a couple hours ago. Elder Scrolls Online, 2,000 viewers. Biggest streamer, 407 or so. World of Warcraft, 39.1K viewers, with more bigger streamers at the top of the audience. Apples to apples, oranges to oranges, some people say. These are both major MMOs built on an existing game series that is already well known and does well. Look at the big difference in popularity. 2K viewers, 1.5 million followers. 39K viewers, 10.2 million followers. Let's continue. Remember, $2,000 for ESO. Hogwarts Legacy, 8.8. If we subtracted Forsen, who's a popular streamer, we subtract him out of the 8.8K viewers, we still get over $2,000. Let's run the calculator on this just to do it again and display this. 8.8 minus Forsen was streaming at 5.3, 3,500 concurrents versus ESO's $2,000. Genshin Impact, $10,000. Genshin Impact, $10,000. Elden Ring, $26,000. Final Fantasy, $3.7,000. Guild Wars 2 is 1.3. So at least ESO, well, reopen that. At least ESO, well, now we've refreshed it. Oh, now it's at 1.1K. At least ESO was able to be larger than Guild Wars 2. Let's refresh all of these. What has happened in the last couple hours? Okay, the West Coast is getting involved. $3,500. That's the new number to beat. What's WoW at? 32.9. Hogwarts, is Forsen done streaming? 1.9. So, okay, they got bigger than Hogwarts. Then. That's good. Genshin. 8.2. Elden Ring. A game that some people said that ESO should take some inspiration from to improve. 26,000. Final Fantasy, is it bigger? 5.3K. And Guild Wars 2, of course. Of course, Guild Wars 2 doesn't run very well. It's very dated in terms of how it renders on the screen. It's a 30 FPS game. Blah. All right, let's cut it out then. But I mean, the difference, and these are the three games that I'm constantly comparing because they are all MMOs based on major successful gaming IPs. And ESO is always the underdog of the three. Always. So how much longer does ZeniMax want to put up with this? And then while they're having these problems, they're resorting to more and more and more gimmicks. More and more and more gimmicks. And now this is the latest. This whole situation is the latest gimmick. They're not in a position. ZeniMax is not in a position to continue being the underdog like this when there's stuff like this coming out. And ESO Necrom, the Dark Elf expansion, oh wow, they have an Arcanist who casts glittery green spells. Oh, okay, like that's not an answer to Hogwarts Legacy that you have some kind of wizardy caster coming into the game this year. Although the Daedric Lord, the guy with all the books in Skyrim is coming back. It's just outrageous. And it's even more outrageous how these ESO fanboys want to pretend there's nothing wrong with this game. Go ahead. Go ahead. Try playing it. Join a free trial or something. See how the world feels like a stage for a play or something. That there doesn't seem to be a sense of danger. That doesn't really seem like you're all that enveloped in the world and you have to constantly make your own fun just to have fun in this game. I've been around sandbox games for decades as well. Grand Theft Auto 3 was the first game I bought specifically for the sandbox side of it. Here's a city, do whatever you want. You can mess around in the game without seriously playing it. But just because you're able to do that doesn't mean that gaming companies should coast and treat their people like garbage. Has there been anybody, I know there's people mad about this on Reddit. Has there been anybody who's made some YouTube videos regarding this? How about Nefas? Nefas QS. Let me see here. Has he done anything on this yet? I guess he hasn't thought about it yet with regards to this. But that's the thing, some of these people who would criticize the living daylights out of Elder Scrolls Online, some of these people would do that. They're incredibly, incredibly selective about what it is about criticizing the game. So you think, oh yeah, these people criticize ESO. They criticize ESO, and then suddenly they go silent at moments like this. Where's their conviction? Is it a problem if ZOS pulls stunts on their paying customers like this? Look, I don't need to put up with this, and I'm not going to. So I don't care what they come out with. I don't care what crap they've got up their sleeve. I found out about this because I wanted to chill after playing a little bit of I found out about this because I wanted to chill after playing a little bit of Forza Rally Adventure. And then I found out about this, and I was pretty insulted. I was pretty insulted that, you know, ZeniMax had stooped to this level of this kind of gimmick when it comes to, you know, the whole hide shoulders thing. World of Warcraft UI upgrade. Look, an upgrade to the transmog system. You can hide this, you can hide that, you can have like you know, a shirtless barbarian going around chopping stuff with an axe. Now, welcome to a little bit more player freedom in WoW. ZeniMax, they go to have what is essentially a catch-up feature to WoW, and they gate it behind 5 event tickets. Gimmicks. Oh, but you can go to the Crown store and buy them. And where's the outrage, though, from the people that usually criticize ZeniMax's every move here? Like, did they miss this one? Are they asleep at the wheel? Where are the complaint videos about this, that ZOS can't get anything right? You know, the same people that complain endlessly about how Cyrodiil's never fixed, the main PvP area with the huge open-world PvP and siege weapons and attacking castles and other stuff. Look, you know, I guess the lesson that we as gamers need to learn here, even if it means walking away from MMOs, is that there's plenty of fish in the sea. I don't have to put up with this. Not when I have Forza Horizon 5 Rally Adventure, not when I have other games coming out, not when I have games in the backlog on both console and PC that I could be catching up with. I mean, oh yeah, I mean, I'm established in ESO, but what am I going to do? Except maybe play some of the quests and further complete the game 100%. What exactly am I going to do? All the streamers I used to watch who played that game were on night shift. Even Tyranny is going live later and later in the day. And I don't think she's going to be thrilled with me watching any of her streams with me saying this stuff, both here and in her Discord, because I'm flat out insulted by this. It's a joke. How come ZeniMax always has to have the gotchas? How come ESO always has to be the underdog versus other MMOs that are similarly structured? Why? Why do these gaming companies have to snub gamers so much? If it wasn't ZOS doing this with Elder Scrolls, it would be EA with Madden, it would be Ubisoft with The Crew 2 or Assassin's Creed or something like that. Just why is it such a fight to get something so basic as a good video game to play from these AAA folks? You know, the indie scene is flourishing right now because you have people with some passion in what they do that are making these games that don't become popular, don't get on IGN or whatever, and you know, and they're those hidden gems you have to find out about. Those best games no one played, as they used to say back on like the X-Play shows and stuff, or GameSpot's Year in Review or whatever it was back in the day. Why does it have to be this way? Indie seemed to have some cool ideas, says Dan. Yeah. What happened to the passion? And why is it that the minute a person, a company, an intellectual property, anything of that sort gets successful, that suddenly the people in charge get an ego and they start snubbing the very people that made them successful? Oh yeah, we're Hollywood, we're rich, we can't make crap and send it to the theaters. Let's make a social justice movie that butchers a superhero franchise or whatever. Oh no, how come it's flopping at the box office? It's like, it's just, why do you, I mean, you have people that maybe put up with nonsense politics at work, politicians lying to them and stuff like that, you know, in the regular world. Why would they want to see stupid ass politics in a movie that's supposed to be an escapist type thing? Why would they want to see that? How come gaming journos around the time that Hogwarts Legacy jumped immediately to, oh no, J.K. Rowling has angry transphobic views? But why'd they have to jump on that? But then again, why did J.K. Rowling have that? Why couldn't she just be, you know, I would say fat, dumb, and happy, but she's not. Why couldn't she just park it in her mansion or whatever and enjoy that Harry Potter money for the rest of her life? Why'd she have to tick off her fan base or sizable chunks of it like this? It's like, at least George Lucas had the sense to sell off Star Wars to Disney when he was pretty much done with it, when he was ticking people off with the prequels and changing the special editions and stuff like that. So it's like, why did J.K. Rowling have to become the latest out-of-touch rich person to snub the paying customers that got her there in the first place with all the Harry Potter stuff? And now you have ESO, butchering Elder Scrolls. I played Morrowind, Oblivion, Skyrim, had fun with all 3 games, beating them, 100% completing a lot of them, a lot of the content in them, going nuts with mods to the point where you had to put in a little bit of effort to see the original game under all the mods I was running. All 3 games. ESO, it's crap when it comes out. Has to fight its mediocrity until it becomes more like an Elder Scrolls offline game. Then I start playing it. It's fun. I make progression. I buy some castles. I have a bunch of characters with stories between them and stuff. And then ZeniMax decides to get all tone deaf like this and ban people from the forums who criticize them and, muzzle the streamers that stream the game on the stream team and or even interfere with the dialogue in the first place. And how about drop streams with longer and longer requirements? Oh, you're watching an ESO streamer. Watch him for 15 minutes to get an Ouroboros crate. Watch him a half an hour. Watch him for 1 hour. What's next? We're going to have drop streams you got to watch for 2 hours? Zoss, drop streams are artificial traffic on Twitch. The streamers themselves know this. People on Twitch know this. And how about we stop snubbing YouTube while we're at it, especially when YouTube lets streamers turn off mid-rolls versus the mid-roll dance. Oh, an ad break's incoming to turn off pre-rolls. Pre-roll dance, mid-roll dance. Welcome to Twitch. They just had a bunch of layoffs there, too. And their CEO finally left after all these years, but he was pretty much out of touch to begin with. Congratulations. Something good happened at Twitch. Drop streams 24 hours says don't even mention it. One of the problems with this stuff is you can't joke about it. For some reason you joke about it today, and in like a week, a month, a year later, it seriously happens like someone heard you and took you seriously. Sometimes that happens on the internet, but can't believe you're making such a big deal. I can't believe you're making such a big deal out of one decision that doesn't take very long to grind. It's because you don't have to grind very much. It's not even a grind. You can either go to the Crown Store and buy your event tickets, or you can do like a couple days of daily quests, and it unlocks account-wide for all the characters in your accounts. Maybe you have to do it again for the other server if you play on both servers, NA and EU. Or again if you play on console. Hope it doesn't become true. I hope it doesn't become true, says Dan. You never know with people these days, let me tell you. You never know. But so today, I mean, yeah, it isn't very much. I'll give you that. I'll give these folks that. It isn't much of a grind. But the bottom line is you have to run around the world running from point A to point B and be reminded that you can go into a small dungeon, solo dungeon called a delve, and literally run past all the enemies to do the quest. And if you have to fight any of the enemies because they aggro you, you'll probably kill them in 5 seconds and be done with it. And then you do the quest. It's super easy. It's like the world isn't believable. It's beautiful, makes for great screenshots. You can film machinima pretty easily, but it's not really believable when you actually try to play the game instead of repurpose the game for something else. It's like, that's one of the reasons why people liked Elden Ring so much. It actually challenged them. The world seemed believable with a sense of danger. Yeah, it's Dark Souls-y type stuff, but I mean, what's more popular right now? The game that's challenging people, the game that makes you have to get better to make progress instead of letting you whine your way out of putting in the work. It's, society could take some lessons from this sort of stuff, you think? All these people that want to whine and have everything handed to them instead of putting in the work. And you got people with no work ethic and stuff in the working world these days. And the participation things in the schools and the whole 9 yards. But so I can put up with this crap from Zoss, or I could play other games. What do I have for other games? Hogwarts Legacy, an old-fashioned video game without stupid stuff in it that I've just been playing through the old-fashioned way like I used to do. Chuggy performance, but hey, you know, it's engrossing, kind of like Banjo-Kazooie too, where as you progress, you unlock new skills and abilities, you can go back to places you already were and, you know, go to places you couldn't go before, stuff like that, you know? And then Forza, having lots of fun with Forza right now. Not only Forza Horizon 5, but going back to Forza Horizon 4 and spending money on the fastest car in the game. Plus, I never played much of the DLCs for those, so now that I'm into Forza, I might bounce between games and, you know, work on 100% completing those. Then there's the backlog on Steam and on console, and then there's emulation even. Take one of my PS2 games, digitize it, play it at PCSX2 with that special PlayStation controller I mentioned earlier. Yeah, and have it look like an old PC game, but it's a PS2 game I never got to play. It's just, and maybe get a better experience than on the original hardware. I have so many choices available. I don't have to be Stockholmed essentially by ESO. I know I've been an ESO guy for years, but I'm not giving the game a free pass. If it looks like the devs are getting lazy, then there you go. It's like when Necrom comes out, we'll see if I even want to play the game. So I guess I said all that to say this. I got to get to bed sometime tonight because I'm stuck on day shift for a bit. But here's the thing. You know, this stupidity, I've had it with this stupidity. I've had it with the people making excuses. I've had it with the people that are Stockholm fanboys about ESO. I've just had it with this. I have half a mind to, for the first time ever, cancel my ESO Plus subscription for the first time since I've been playing this game. We live in a day and age of subscriptions you toggle on and off. Now, there are benefits to playing ESO Plus. The crowns you get every month for the Crown Store are a bonus. You basically get a bonus amount of crowns every month, and the free currency handout you get every month. That adds up while you're away from the game. I don't know if it's worth it. Do I really want to come back after taking a 6-month break from ESO and buy a castle? Is there going to be any castles to buy? There wasn't one for High Isle. So there wasn't another Panther Fang Keep. I would have loved to have had a Breton-style castle like Castle Navir on one of those unused islands on the map. I would have loved to have that. But just more and more. Seems like ZOS's devs are just out of touch. And I'm not the only one who believes that. There are commentators that have been insulted away from this game that are now playing other games because they got sick of it all, and I kind of see their point. I have that crap, and however much worse it gets, just like WoW with Warlords of Draenor, or I have games that require one of these. Or I have Hogwarts, or I have anything else I want to play. Or stuff that's cheap now that I didn't get to play back when it was new. Plenty of fish in the sea. So folks, if you were hoping someday I'd be like, that's enough ESO for a bit. You thought I was too obsessed with ESO, or you wondered what I saw in ESO. I mean, I was having a lot of fun with the sandboxy elements to it, but it's not an excuse for the devs to coast. Just because a game's players can make their own fun doesn't mean that the devs should stop trying to make the game more fun. And that's all there is to it. Have a good night, everybody. Till next time, this is Multimedia J signing off. Thanks for stopping by.